my screen, I can do that, but I can't
I'm
share
live right now.
the camera.
I'm live right now.
Yo, what's
Two
up,
seconds
man?
in right now. There we go. All right. I wonder if I can see how many viewers are here. Is it show it in StreamYard?
It says 4. It says 4 right now, but I'm sure there's
Let's
going
see
to be
here.
more to come.
There we go. Aliens from space, flat Earth debate, test stream. Here we go. But so, thoughts on aliens and flat Earth? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, thanks for having me on, man. I know it's kind of a test stream and everything.
Yeah.
Let's, hopefully it's a test stream that will last the test of
Yeah.
time. And
This is the beginning of everything. This is the beginning.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's going on right now on the X Spaces right now. Reptile Hybrid is literally, I'm not trying to name drop in the first 30 seconds or anything, but these
Yeah.
are things that are going on right now on X. Everyone's
Yep.
talking about this kind of thing going on. We've got disclosure coming out.
Mhm.
We've got YouTube channels that are out here literally live streaming this shit 24/7.
Yeah.
If nobody's been paying attention, they're literally live. It's funny. It's just kind of like lo-fi a girl, but they just like stream the same like CNN Senate hearings or C-SPAN Senate hearings where they're just like streaming them over and over and over again, and there's still 1,600 people watching, like as if they're like massively amazed and whatnot, getting botted, getting just completely duped. So my thoughts are pretty simple on the
Mhm.
whole, alien debate, which is a serious debate. I've kind of wanted to, you know, a good starting point is Alex Jones going on Joe Rogan, just being like, Joe, you don't understand. There's fucking interdimensional baby eating pedophile aliens out there that are the Luciferians. They're just eating all the babies, and it's like, well, he never talked about that once on GSN. He was on Genesis
Yeah.
News Network for like ages. I think he's still connected with GSN in some way, and so I mean that's just kind of the preface, just like tee that up. So this goes back to Bill Cooper. This goes back to a lot of different, OGs in this space. So I think it's a really an interesting topic. I think that a lot of people struggle with the question of, well, if we believe in mainstream physics, where do the aliens come from? Where
Mhm.
are they from? Why are they here? How are they traveling? Oh, they're traveling through wormholes. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
What doesn't make sense is our history as a human species, and how we're here, why we're here. As Graham Hancock put it, we're a species with amnesia, and so
Mhm.
we're sort of here like questioning our like why are we here, and so the question is then, if there are aliens, where do they come from? And I've recently, in the last, like, I don't know, half a decade or so, been open to the idea that maybe they're not so much from the stars, or maybe they are from the stars, but maybe our interconnectedness to the stars is different than the way that we understand it in sort of a three-dimensional realm. So
Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
I'm open to the idea that there are aliens, and I've heard a lot of accounts. Just like if you're new to this, if this is your first time here, if you never heard of this before, if you never heard about near-death experiences, for example, this is like kind of like your first dive into the paranormal and studying a topic that is sort of taboo. It's not really covered yet. Meanwhile, there are Senate hearings going on right now, literally on C-SPAN, that you can watch, and you can hear them talking about all the stuff that happened in Roswell, New Mexico, way back when. and all the stuff that's happened since then. There's been tons and tons of different uh, things that have came out. So that's kind of how I would preface it. I would say that there's a lot of information there. That's a lot of parse through. And I would say that it's super interesting if you're just coming into it. Uh, it's easy to hand wave dismiss, but I would say
Hmm.
there's a there.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right, but I kind of want to take it one step back and think about the connection between aliens and flat Earth, right? You mentioned how, like, if you look at it from like a physics point of view, a 3D point of view, it's very different than if you look at it from a multi-dimensional point of view, And so if you think of aliens as, being interdimensional beings, then wouldn't that make sense that Earth itself is also interdimensional as well, right? So that means that the Earth could be flat. It could be something slightly different in different dimensions. Is Earth a multi-dimensional being in itself? And which version of it are we on right now? Because I know I've gotten dreams, I've had visions where I've seen the firmament. I tried to go past it and I got like shocked. It was like a magnetic field and I couldn't get past that. It was like a sharp pain. I couldn't get past it. But I've also had visions where I go in an astral, I go outside, like through the sky, and I go outside to space. And it's not space, it's just a bunch of like to the two rows of like Earths, like parallel Earths, like going back to infinity. And I could like zoom in on each one. Some were burnt, some were alive, and like they were ancient. And they had
That's
like
because you're on the
ancient,
side of the tortoise.
and so it's like depending on which dimension you're at, Earth will look different depending on which which plane of existence you're looking at it from will be a different representation of it. It's like I was going into the library of Earths in that particular vision, and in the other vision I was unable to get out of the dome. So it's like depending on the plane I was in, it was like had different abilities and different access. What do you think about
Well, yeah, I think in case you didn't catch my joke when you were saying about the like a parallel sort of infinite plane, not infinite plane, but like a linear stretch of Earths
that? It's
in
like a
different
library.
like in snapshots almost.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of the old lady, and she says, it's tortoises.
Oh yeah.
The Earth
Yeah.
is on the tortoise. It's
All the way
tortoises
down.
all the way down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think absolutely you're on to something there. Um, you know,
So
um,
yeah. But
remind me of your last point that you just said there. Because before I said that, I wanted to
yeah.
I wanted to get that joke in, but yeah,
Yeah.
um,
So there seems to be a connection between like aliens and
yeah.
them being possibly interdimensional and like basically ignoring the concept of like this physical 3D concept of having to travel light years to get to Earth when they're just like I can just travel like frequentially to you and not have to worry
I
about
mean,
this space.
it's weird too because like, how do we not acknowledge the psychedelic aspect of this? And I hate to do that, right? Because this is more of a scientific endeavor, um, at least the way that I think of it. Um, but that's what I was going to say. That's right. You made a point about seeing it from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think angels and angles are like the same thing. So
Mm,
I think that
mm,
this is where we get the concept of as above, so below. And
right.
so you're literally thinking, and this is I have a lot of hours just staring at the sky, just stargazing, sun gazing, and just generally looking through a telescope. I spent most of my time looking at the moon. I've also spent a lot of time looking at the sun. And I would say that uh, basically there's like this interplay between, call it astrology if you want. And I
Mm-hmm.
I I I, I believe in astrology now. I'm
Oh,
fairly
yeah. It's very real.
I'm
It's
not I'm
very
not
real.
I'm not firm on that, but
It's not. Yeah. Not like I think I don't ascribe to pop astrology, but astrology at its core is very real.
I'll give you a good example of this. There's a book called uh, I think it's called The Water Wizard by Callum Coates, and it recounts the life of Walter Schauberger, and he's
Mm.
kind of this unknown forester scientist who lived. I believe he's from Austria, and believe it or
Uh-huh.
not, I was actually believe 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 it or not, he actually like created the first UFO. It's called the
Uh-huh.
Repulsine. It's Repulsin, and you can Google it. And there's pictures of it, and there is some video of it. It's hard to find these days because it was in 1940. I think it was 1940 or 1941, and he was conscripted by Hitler himself to create basically anti gravity. And
Mm.
he had worked on these things for a while, and he was more of a naturalist more than anything else. And
Mm.
you know, he had these concepts that he had observed in nature, and very
Mm.
similar to Walter Russell, if you're familiar with him. You know, he was kind of like this guy that came out of nowhere, and then you know had this big enlightenment kind of moment, and like drew all these things on a chalkboard for weeks
Mm.
and weeks and weeks on end. It was like 6 8 weeks or something. I can't remember the exact story, but you know, he basically was on a chalkboard, and he was like describing all these different things and forms of nature. And you know, I'm a big there's another book, it's called, I think it's by Ernst Lears, um Ernst Lears. Anyways, it's about
Mm.
forms of nature, and it's fascinating. There's a guy on YouTube, his name is Stellium 7, and he
Mm.
espounds that this idea that rocks are basically hearts. Basically,
Mm.
if you were to take a cross section of, not all rocks, but if you were to take, you know, like in certain areas and whatnot, if you were to take a cross section of a rock, that
Uh-huh.
the rock has like vestibules and different
Mm-hmm.
like passages that simulate the heart. And
Oh,
he's basically saying that this is basically evidence that there are creatures that have decayed, and we're looking at their decayed bodies. So he goes as far to say as, you know, we're already getting into tangents here real quick. I mean,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's kind of the like unfortunate way that it all goes. It's kind of hard to stay on like, you know, on course, but so he's saying that this is what he's saying. He's basically saying that there's like he's basically saying there's you know, take it from the Bible, for example. We talk about the Nephilim, the Watchers,
Uh-huh.
and the Anunnaki. Take it, all
Yeah.
these different things that you have, and that he's basically saying that there's creatures. These creatures lived. They were giants on the earth, super giants, not just giants like that we would normally think of them, like 30 feet tall, but they were hundreds of feet tall, and the trees were hundreds of feet tall at all at that time, and and again, it's kind of funny if you wanted to think about giants and giant trees and put it on a ball. That's kind of funny too. That's kind of a thought experiment where you're like, holy shit. So if the trees were like
Uh-huh.
1,000 feet tall, like a quarter mile tall, it's like this thing out, and then like this gets into this thing where, you know, we should be seeing this curvature. um and so far, I'm not sold either way as far as
Mm-hmm.
flat earth goes. There's another YouTuber, Jaronism. Jaron went to Antarctica with
Uh-huh.
some other YouTubers, and including Witzik Itsit. They went down there, and they were like, oh well, you know, and this is actually something that I never understood, because they were basically saying that there is no southern sun. And
Mm.
I think that that's a kind of a foolish way to think about this. Flat Earth is relatively a new concept, whereas Hollow Earth is like goes back decades and decades, hundreds of years. We do have like probably 125 years of literature on Flat Earth, but
Hey,
Hollow Earth goes even back further.
let's take a quick pause here. We got some comments. We got questions. People here says, "Flat Earth. The Earth is a sphere." I mean, probably I believe. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
It
I
being a
mean,
sphere.
yeah, so I mean, there's some basic proofs that are like trending in the direction of flat Earth. Again, I don't want to say I'm a flat earther per se. I'm just like interested in the debate. I'm interested in the argument. If you were to say, do I believe in NASA and the current model of space? Absolutely not. I do not believe in that. Are we going to Mars? No, we're not going to Mars. There's so many things that you could point to. I think the first thing to point to is the moon. And you say, okay, well, we went to the moon. We went to the moon. It's like, okay, we haven't been back there. And like, what's the reason? Budget cuts. Budget cuts. Yes. We will spend trillions of dollars on AI, but we can't go back to the moon because of budget cuts. That's a great one. That's a really funny one. Yeah, just like finding a picture of a satellite where the satellite just like extends a little Japanese selfie stick and then takes a picture of itself with the earth in the background is another one. There's also like no photographical evidence of the astronauts that were on the Apollo missions. You'd be like, hey dude, I landed on the fucking moon. And like, get a picture of me with the sun in the background. There's no sun in the background. There's also no pictures of any stars. So you can go to NASA's Instagram and you can pull up, I mean, at least this was the case in 15 years ago. But
How do you, sorry to interrupt you. How do you answer so there's more comments about what you're talking about? It says, because there's nothing on the moon for people to exploit. What are your thoughts on that?
that's another one. There's nothing on the moon to exploit other than that's not true. There's helium-3. There's helium-3. That's a joke, by the way. The moon, you're looking at the moon and I can't tell if it's already trolls in the comment or if it's a legitimate question, but either way, it's a great question. We won't go back to the moon because we don't have. Think about it from a military standpoint. You could just from a military standpoint, the moon would be high ground, right? Also, where are the pictures of the dark side of the moon? I would ask the person that's asking the question, where are the pictures of the dark side of the moon other than the Pink Floyd album? You can't find them because they don't exist, and because you can't see the dark side of the moon. And that's not true. If the moon was in fact orbiting the Earth, and
Let's throw the comments on the stage, so you'll get to see them live here. You got more people coming in here. To get us back on track, so we're not just going on a tangent here. I want to go back to the other question we had, which is aliens. So are aliens and other beings out there, or are they here right now? What are your thoughts?
Sure. Are aliens here or are they out there? Maybe before I answer that, I want to go back to the last question just to give a just to wrap that one up. You have to understand that the whole idea that we've been given about space is that once you're in space, right? You're in just look up ISS reboost, for example. I was surprised when I was a kid. I was like, wait a minute, you're reboosting the ISS, and ask yourself, what does that mean? What are they reboosting? In what vector? In what vector are they reboosting as well? Are they reboosting up, or are they reboosting sideways? Or how are they reboosting? And look into that. And also, why is there not, if you were to easily launch all of these satellites, for example Starlink, into space right now, or let's suppose that they're in space and they're moving around in free space, in fact what we call cis space, which is the space in between the Earth's outer atmosphere and between the moon, that these objects would be, these, our spacecraft would be moving around, and we'd be able to put them in orbit just like Starlink. Why can't we have a Starlink around the moon? What, okay, if we're able to launch, like if we're already able to escape Earth's orbit, these are not manned missions, they're just drones. So why can't we have a little miniature Starlink that's around the moon and sending back? And it's always, maybe it's budget cuts, I don't know, but I'd be curious to hear the commenters answer to that. But anyways, back to the kind of the core question: aliens, are they out there, or are they here? Yeah, I mean, there's a big question. I mean, there's a physical question, and then there's sort of the you kind of touched on it earlier, the interdimensional question. And this gets a little bit far out. I mean, this gets back into the 60s and Terrence McKenna. And there was a really good song by, I think it's called Ministry. The band name is, I think it's called Ministry. And they kind of do this cut up with I may be butchering that because that might be Timothy Leary. But anyways, there's this hilarious kind of like techno song. It's like it's got Terrence McKenna in there, and he's like, and it is true that if you take a sufficient amount of DMT, you get
right.
You get elves. You get elves, he says. You get
a whole lot of shit. You take a lot of DMT.
So
you're gonna get a lot more than elves.
I've never taken DMT, so I don't know. But
oh yeah, you'll get a lot.
It touches on this this world of like, what is the fabric of reality? And so that's like a different question. That's a bigger question. So if we're keeping things within the secular bounds of science, and we're like, okay, we're talking about quantitative, quantitative and qualitative, but mostly quantitative data, and we're sitting there and we're saying, okay, well, like, where are they? Okay, well, I would ask the question to you, Jacob. What is the deepest hole ever dug?
Well, the deepest hole ever dug reminds me of was that conspiracy theory of the hole in Washington State? What was that? The Graham's hole? I forget. Mel's hole.
But like a scientific hole that was dug. Like, just take a stab. Like
probably a deep sea thing.
Well, let's play a game for a second.
I don't know.
I'm not trying to dig, but like, most people don't know this information. So
100 miles.
Let's play a quick game. Like, how high is the moon?
How far away is it? Well, well, for me, you're talking to somebody who's really deep in read the book. I mean, I'm so deep into this. I'll answer it from what perspective should I answer it from? Do you want it from a physical perspective, like a NASA perspective, or do you want it from like a spiritual perspective?
Well, I think from the YouTuber comments, they're basically saying from a quantitative perspective, how high is the moon? Like, if the moon is directly above us.
It's like 3 seconds, and it's 3 seconds for light to reach us. It takes like 8. Because it takes like 8 for the sun, or 11, or whatever it is. I don't know. So it's probably like 3 light seconds.
So another question would be, what is the diameter of the Earth? And I'm asking these questions. I know they're hard, and I
would say it's probably 27,000 miles.
27,000 miles. Okay. All right. So that's roughly. Is
that close? Or?
That's roughly the circumference of the Earth. but the diameter of
Oh,
Earth would be 8,000. So if we were to take, for example, and again, we're going to ballpark these numbers, guys. We're not going to get into specifics, and it's like,
oh,
you
yeah, you're right. You're talking about all the way
25,000
around diameter
twenty.
going straight through. Yeah, so basically half of what I said almost, kind of thing. Yeah,
So from the North Pole to the South Pole is 8,000 miles.
yeah, it's a
Okay,
fourth. Yeah,
so
diameter.
how now? So okay, so it's fourth. The radius of Earth is 4,000 miles. So how
Yeah,
far do you think we've dug deep? Now the Mariana Trench is
and
trench is
I would say
roughly
an eight.
7 miles, and
I would
Mount
say a
Everest is
16th,
almost about
16th, a
16,
16th or a 16th of it.
a 16th of it. Okay, so um,
I would think. Yeah.
yeah, so let's say of the radius, we'll say 4,000
Uh-huh.
miles divided by 16
Yeah,
would be roughly 250 miles. So
something like that. Yeah.
we've gone 8 miles in
Okay.
total.
So what? So still under what I would even think is a rough estimate.
So that's less than Mount Everest, basically. That's
Uh huh.
less than the Mariana Trench. We
Hmm.
have gone nowhere. We haven't even
You
so
can, yeah. Yeah.
now let me give you another thought example. Okay. So again, this is gonna go back to aliens and very real quick.
Okay. Yep.
So if we were to think about how far high up is the International Space Station, and let's suppose that I think the ISS is there. I do think it's there. Richard Garriott, who's one of my heroes, he's basically the greatest video game creator of all time. He created Ultima Online and all the whole Ultima series, big
Hmm.
hero of mine. He went there and he has actually the best footage of basically any astronaut that's ever been there. He was an independent astronaut. He paid his way to go there. I think he paid like 15 to
Hmm.
$30 million of his own money to basically go up
Yeah.
there way back when. And this is when you actually had to be an astronaut to go to space. Now you can just be a fat 80-year-old William Shatner to go there. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And you can just ride a dildo to get there. But anyways, back in the day, you got to be somebody to get there. So how high do you think that the International Space Station is above Earth? So you think about, okay, well, how far is it to get
Well,
from like point A to B?
It's in orbit, so it's probably a few thousand miles.
A few
Oh
thousand miles.
no, I'd say it's 800 miles.
That's a good gosh. That's what most people say. Most people say a few thousand miles. How far, or let me ask you a different question. How long do you think it would take me to get there? Like if I
Using what?
launch a rocket from Cape Canaveral, how long would it take me to get there?
It would take you. Well, how fast is it going? What's the rocket going?
Well, I mean, the International Space Station is traveling at 17,500 miles per hour laterally. So, but you have to just get to it, which is it's as high as you want to go. So the question is, how are you going to get there? Now, in order for you to catch up with it,
You have to actually calculate that trajectory and have the right speed's going to change depending on. But I mean, yeah, it's
well,
going to take you.
there's two questions that
It's
you
going
have
to
to
take you
ask.
definitely. It's going to take you quite a long time.
Well, there's two questions that you have to ask. Are you trying to land on it, or
Yeah.
are you trying to explode it? You see the difference? Because if I'm trying to land on it, I have to
Yeah.
match the trajectory and I have to
And
actually
also,
match the
yeah.
trajectory in order to
And yeah,
follow the
yeah,
orbit,
yeah,
in order to catch it, in order for me to safely land on it, as opposed
yeah,
to I just have to intercept it and just boom, it doesn't matter for me. So the
yeah.
answer
That
is
changes
like
the speed. Sure.
so the fastest rocket, believe it or not, that's ever gone past, and you can double check me. It's either Voyager 1 or Voyager 2. And they
Hmm.
say that Voyager 1 is reaching the Oort cloud right now and that it's communicating back to us. So, and yeah, I'm having a tough time seeing the comments right now. It's like I can see them, but they're really, really tiny. So if there's any
Okay, so
questions,
here we go. So I'm going to bring you up to speed here. Um, there is we can't be the only sentient beings in the entire universe. The universe is infinite. Then the comment was Ocean Beach, Washington. I guess that's where she is right now. And then it was 238,555 miles from the Earth to the Moon, winning and on the distance from the Earth to the Moon.
Yeah. So if you measure that in like diameters of Earth, that's like not a lot. So if you think about
Mm-hmm.
or circumferences of Earth, so how long would it take you to if you had a really fast plane and you wanted to go around and around and around? And
Mm-hmm.
of course, this is not. I'm not talking about rocket mechanics here. This
Yeah.
is something different. But I'm just saying that you have to think about like if you were to go to Los Angeles to Seattle, for example, that would be like three times the amount of length, maybe four, that it would be to go to the moon. So if you were to tilt,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to take that let's say it was linear and you were to tilt that straight up on 90 degrees, how far is it to get up? And no one can ever explain why we can't see the dark side of the moon. That's a funny one. I would love to hear from anyone in the comments of why they can't see the dark side of the moon. You'd be like, oh, we can't see it because it's on the dark side. Well, yeah. So if it was a new moon and we had a satellite, then the satellite would see the far side of the moon anytime that
Mm-hmm.
it was orbiting on the far side of the moon during a new moon. So when it's a
Yeah.
new moon, it's dark to us because it's facing us because it's supposedly geo-locked. Yeah, it's so basically the way I see it, and this is where it gets all complicated. There's lots of theories. Zachariah Sitchin, I think, is one who expounded upon it, but that the moon seems artificial. It seems hollow.
Mm-hmm.
I also have heard from you know other people like Eric Dollard. Eric Dollard says the sun is definitely hollow for sure. He's done massive, massive amounts of experiments of radio tests of using different radio telescopes and testing the sun. It also is something different. I also recommend Crow 777radio.com. He's got a great website and just awesome. I'm not trying to be here on the test stream, just name
Mm-hmm.
dropping, but
Yeah.
if we're going to get into this, we should probably I don't know. A lot of people they want to keep it about us and they want to keep it here. Well, it's a test stream, so who cares? But
Yeah.
yeah, these are a lot of the informations that you should kind of like
Mm.
start on
Yeah.
in order to get into this kind of information. Now, let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's get back to the aliens. So,
Uh-huh.
um, yeah. So the information about the aliens again, this is like in the last 3-4 weeks or something like that. There's been a congressional hearing on it. There's been lots of things coming out over the last different, I don't know, few years or something, all talking about disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. The QAnon people I also hear are big on disclosure stuff. I don't know if that's turned on. I'm not a Q-tard, so I don't know about that. But yeah, and this is where I would throw it back to you. I mean, uh, I've kind of given you my
Mm-hmm.
take. Now I want to hear, from you. What do you think of, in what's your current like position on this? Because there's been a lot of information that's coming
Yeah.
out recently, and there's been a lot of dynamics where things have
Mm-hmm.
shifted. Where you know, if you asked me 5-10 years ago, I would say absolutely not. But now I'm rethinking things, and I'm rethinking
Right.
things in the lens of what I just laid out. Whereas, like, okay, I used to think, well, are they coming from Alpha Centauri? Are
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
coming from wherever? And now all of a sudden it's a different story.
Okay. So before I head in, I'm just grabbing another drink here. Before I give you my point of view on everything and my opinions, my perspective, I want to know what made you turn around or start believing certain things. Because you said you didn't before, but now you've kind of changed a little bit and you're in a new direction. So what was it that changed your mind on either aliens, flat Earth, spirituality, or whatever it was?
Well, again, I'm not tied to any of these concepts. I'm just giving you kind of what's my current kind of like thought process and what I'm exploring right now. I like to
Uh-huh.
take a lot of theories and just kind of put them in the back of my head and let them cook. I don't necessarily sit there and go, okay, like
Right.
I'm gonna jump on this bandwagon or I'm gonna jump on this bandwagon or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So I take a lot of ideas, I put them in the back of my head, I let them cook,
Hmm.
and I just let them see how they play out over time. It's like a gamble.
Yeah.
It's like a long term let game basically.
Yeah.
So uh, I've had a lot of
Mhm.
experiences over time. I've seen a lot. For example, I haven't seen any like direct crazy UFOs, but I've
Uh-huh.
seen lots of stuff in the sky. I mean, just grab a pair of night vision goggles for God's sakes. Grab
Uh-huh.
some night vision goggles and you look up in the sky and you see things moving all over the place. And I mean, what is all that? You don't even
Right.
need night vision. Just
Uh-huh.
go out to a dark desert or even a dark forest, and just lie out in some open field, and then just look up and let your eyes gaze, and you'll see all sorts of things moving around. And I'm
Yeah.
not talking about satellites, because these satellites would be moving at a constant velocity. Okay, so these things accelerate, decelerate, stop, turn around, move a different direction. So I've seen all sorts of that stuff. That's pretty much common knowledge. Now, I would suppose all of that is man made, and I've believed that pretty much since the first time I saw it, which was probably like
Hmm.
16 years old when I started seeing that. Um, Also, chemtrails. I mean, I'm not getting into the side topic of chemtrails, but I mean that is kind of a weird thing, right? I mean, I remember distinctly being a kid. There was no chemtrails. Then all of a sudden there was chemtrails. That was about 97, 98. Uh, Not going to get into that right now, but um, all these different things lead to uh, what Eisenhower described as the military industrial complex. And so we know that there's basically this technology that, basically came out of World War II. There was a lot of stuff that went black ops, and there was stuff from black ops that went even more level of black ops. And the skunk works programs that they have got going on. So
Hmm.
yeah, so I definitely, when I first looked at the Los Alamos info, I kind of dismissed it. um, Stephen Greer, for example, I think his name's Stephen Greer.
Yes, it is.
He's been out here for 30 years. You know, the majority of my life, basically. Going over this information and talking about it, talking about mostly classified information that he can't talk about, or mostly
Hmm.
declassified. He kind of goes once in a while. It kind of goes a little bit more. Um, so uh, I've been open to that information. Also, people that have had NDEs, near death experiences. That's definitely
Uh-huh.
another thing that ties into this, where it seems as if there's a connection there, where um,
Hmm.
yeah, people having NDEs are definitely experiencing something that goes a little bit deeper than what we would typically think. And then yeah, there's just the overall thing about, if you're trying to think about aliens in terms of, well, how do they get here, and if there's so much for, like, the typical thing is always, well, if they're so advanced, they're just studying us like worms, and they're just waiting, they're just seeing like all these different like fictional ideas, but it doesn't seem like that's the way it works. And then also too, an important point is that if you see that the way that the world has been manipulated, it does not seem that the way the world has been guided. So if you turn, like, just in terms of history, for example, all of a sudden, the advent of all the technology that we have today. Uh, it's very strange, and which the pace that it. And I'm not discrediting the ingenuity of mankind. I'm just saying that the way it all happened in terms of the lens of history that we're given
Yeah,
is very strange. So,
yeah. Thanks for your input. I think I would like to take a little turn here because I want to manifest this to be a little stronger. So I want to get more audience engagement. So I want to start answering questions from the audience only from now on, and so that when people come in, they stay because they're going to be included into the conversation. Um, so whoever's here right now, we have one viewer. If you have a question, please ask your most pressing question right now, and we'll talk about that. And I'll give my opinion. He'll give his opinion about that, and share yours as well. And we'll do that as people come in. We'll keep um, working with the community here to understand all perspectives, right? Not just mine or his,
and
but
let's get more
everybody's
into the
involved here.
aliens and the reptilians and, like, I mean, we kind of dodged that subject so far, so let's kind of get into the
Okay,
real
well,
meat and potatoes.
let me give you my perspective here, and I'll try to condense it into a nutshell. Although this book here does a pretty good job, I want to give you a concrete example of my experience, right? So in this book, I'm not going to go in there and read it right now, but in this book, I have, uh, I think I've just written down in here only about like 10 different parallel lives, or 15, maybe 30, I don't know. But I've had hundreds of them written down outside the book. I had to compress it down. One of them was of being a alien. Well, in this book, yeah, one of them was being an alien, and it was a reptilian shapeshifter. And I got to experience what it was like. I was being chased by another reptilian alien. I had very little emotion, and then when I went into a bathroom in the city, like I say a street park type bathroom, and I looked into the mirror, and I was in mid shape shift. So I saw myself turning into like a camouflage shell of a human, and I had like a trench coat type coat on, and I was just like a man, like a Caucasian man. But the interesting part was, oh yeah, and as I saw the transition, I remember seeing my feet. They were web-like, almost like a duck, and they had these little talons at the end. And then all of a sudden, it's like being transformed and like being compressed. It was like the body of this alien was much larger, and it was like compressing its shell, and its organs were being squeezed. I could feel things inside me being compressed, and then I could also feel these gum, I call them gum flaps. Remember thinking it was so weird because I was touching the inside of my mouth with my tongue, and I could feel like these flaps inside my mouth, like, oh, how funny! So all these little flaps inside my mouth, and so I was like, oh yeah, this is what it's like. So basically, like it can camouflage itself externally, but and inside it's like compressing all its organs, and then it feels very different. So I have experience being a alien slash reptilian before, so I know from a personal experience that they exist because I am one somewhere else at this very moment in a parallel time. So I don't see time as being linear. And here's my example of this when people explain, what do you mean by that? You see this right here, this ball. If I go like this is A, this is B, and all these incremental steps in between, right? So it takes time to go from here to here. And there's an endpoint, that's our start point and an end point. But if I go like this, you see that it's one point with infinite volume, right? It's a circle, it's one point that has infinite volume. And that's what it's like by seeing time as being non-linear. It's one point with infinite perspectives within it. It's parallel. It's all happening at the same time. But we, on the 3D realm, we experience it like this. But when in actuality, it's like this. We just experience it like this. But time is just one thing happening at the same time. You go, well, what is that one thing? It's an nth. Well, in my book, and I can show you what it looks like right here. Let me show you. Like I've experienced what it was like to see from the void, from the mother, I call it, to see what reality or creation looks like. And it was a nth dimensional toroidal sphere in the very center of two opposing vortices or vortexes that were clashing on each other. You can call them male, female, but they were clashing onto each other. And let me show you this picture. Here we go. Here we go. Let's do this one here. See that top there, right? These two vortices were clashing onto each other. And we got a question here. Do either of you think the aliens have evil or good intentions? I know Dr. Greer talks about how them being evil is a cabal made psyops to create fear. Okay, I have a lot to say. So I don't know much about Dr. Greer's visions of Capulet. I think I've seen you before. I think you been talking about this before with me. But you know, I've had thousands upon thousands of parallel lives and visions and experiences and mathematical formulas and everything that's in this book. I'm telling you, these are direct experiences, right? And I had to go through the whole entire evolution of thinking linearly and then finally non-linearly to accept all possibilities, pure imagination. When I did that, everything started flooding in. I don't know if Dr. Greer has done that. See, he's very grounded. Most grounded people in this world are really glued to 3D thinking, and they're opening up to this infinite possibilities of things happening. Whereas I was born with this infinite possibility, trying to ground myself constantly. So I come from a different perspective. And when I come from this basically infinite imagination perspective of experiencing all these parallel lives, being an alien, and all these different things, it's a very different way of looking at it. And so from my perspective, is that Dr. Greer is seeing things from a 3D lens, right? He's trying to analyze it from a physics and a scientific perspective, while at the same time trying to allow in the mystical and the unknown into that point of view. Whereas I'm saying there's already infinite perspectives on this. Which perspective do you want to experience? Do you want to experience the timeline of where aliens are evil or where they're not evil?
So,
What do you want to experience?
can we sign you up for Project Montauk 2.0?
I'm not sure what that is, but it sounds good. Um,
I'm not so sure.
so, what do you want to experience? Because there are also every being that exists. There's a If you're in creation, you're in duality. If you're in the void, you're in non-duality. That means if you're in creation, I showed you that those vortices going like this and creating an nth-dimensional toroidal sphere in the very center, that creation. If you're in that, there's duality. And that means there's positive and negative, good and evil for everything. Every being, there's an opposite. You go, well, that you're saying that Jesus has an opposite? Yes, there's an evil Jesus. There's an evil version of everything. Because to exist in creation, you have to have an opposite. That means there's always going to be a good or evil version of something. And if you want to experience that, then you will vibrate or have your frequency align with that vibration, that timeline. And so if you go, well, all the experience is evil aliens. Well, do you have a lot of fear in your heart? Are you do you have a lot of negative beliefs that are attached to you? Well, that's what you're vibrating in. That's what you're going to attract and see. And so if you are meditating and you're all in love and you love aliens, you're probably going to attract good aliens. You're probably going to have good experiences with good aliens. But don't think that there's only good aliens just because you're attracting and in that timeline. There's all kinds of aliens and beings out there. But what is your frequency at? Is that's what you're going to attract.
Could I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with the vibrational frequency thing. It really is a big thing. I've seen it with friends of mine. I've seen it with family members of mine. When things are good and they're all going great, they tend to be resonant around the vibrations of the people that are what people are feeling at the time. And that sounds simple and simplistic, or maybe simplex is a better term for it. But I like the word simplex because it kind of transcends this. When we think of things being simplistic, we think of them. There's nothing simplistic about platonic solids, for example.
Yeah.
As you move on in the higher realms of platonic solids, it's like
I'm gonna blow your mind as you talk. Keep talking.
it forms everything, you know. And so uh, so the alien thing. Now, I have personal experiences. I'll share one. I had this guy that was a teacher of mine, and
Mm-hmm.
he basically came and it blew my mind right away and said, there are aliens, and they're here, and there's multiple different types of aliens. There's grays, there are reptilians, and he said there was, I don't know exactly the whole, lineage or pedigree of where all these aliens are coming from, or this kind of thing. And I have, to be honest with you, I haven't really thought about it until recently. So I have to spend some more time thinking about this and breaking this
Mm-hmm.
down.
Yeah.
And the thing for me is always, well, they're aliens. Well, why can't they just be a species that's still here on Earth? Why? That's something that's completely overlooked. Is like, why are they just not here on Earth? And they've been here. They do they live underground? And also I also kind of hand wave dismiss the potential DNA editing of the human species, which seems to be there now. A lot of scientists are coming out and acknowledging that,
Mm-hmm.
so that seems to be real.
Yeah.
And there's a really good guy. His name is escaping me right now, but basically he was on a podcast recently. He was on Crow Triple Seven. Um, his name will come to me, but anyways, he was talking about basically that the relationship between the human and reptilian DNA is so closely related that there's something to that, and there's also something connected to the vaccines. Now, we might just
Mm-hmm.
get kicked off right on the test run here. So it's like
Yeah.
I kind of don't want to go into that kind of stuff right now because we're just kind of
Yeah.
like testing the waters here.
Yeah.
But
No, I understand that.
I mean, we can kind of keep it,
PG.
you
Yeah.
know,
A
we
little
can
bit.
we can keep it Cleo over here, but
Yeah. At
I
least
don't know. I'm
for
not really
now.
sure. I'm not really sure we're wanting to go into
Because
like,
I don't mind getting into
yeah.
the nitty gritty, and because there's a lot of things I'm going to reveal. So people, there's two people here viewing. What you're the first two people that are about to experience what is going to be a revolution in dreams and in everything. So I wrote this book and I released it last year, and I'm finally going through a life transition. I'm going to be spending, so after August 5th, I will be spending every day doing lives, doing podcasts, doing videos, and doing all of this stuff. And it's going to explode. I'm telling you right now. And I will be getting into the visions and premonitions, and we'll have Metatron back. We'll be talking a lot about what's going to be happening, premonitions that are really happening within years here, and this year as well. And the things that are already coming true, that I've already predicted in this book, and they're already coming true. So if you want to see some wild stuff that has been prophesied, that is coming true, get the book. Also tune in for the podcast coming up soon. One thing I want to mention that'll blow your mind, because you said you like the whole bottle idea, right? So I want to give you another example, a physical example of something that you can hold on to and understand how this works. When I say, so I believe in a nutshell, reality is an eternal pregnant mother. Okay, that's why the symbol of the eternal pregnant mother, the virgin birth, is cross cultures and time. The reason why that is that there's the void, this pitch black void of infinite potentiality. Call it the quantum, call it whatever you want. This infinite potentiality is aware, but not aware of itself. It's just pure awareness. It's infinite potentiality. It's all the infinite ingredients. And within itself, so it's infinite, right? Boundless. And within it is this two vortices going like this to create this nth-dimensional toroidal sphere in the center. And did you know, if you have two vortexes and you put them inside water, a liquid, what happens? In fluid dynamics, it creates a torus, a toroid, right? Which is basically a donut, right? So this torus, this donut, in the center is nth dimensional, right? It's not just three-dimensional, it's nth dimensional. It's infinite dimensions or planes of existence wrapping on each other. Opposite, so like positive and negative, right? Duality, right? So this is where I have this to show you understand what I'm talking about. The actual visual example. So this is a Mobius strip. You don't know what a Mobius strip is? It's a three-dimensional object that is one plane. Okay, so you can put your finger on it, and it goes on all sides. But it's just one side. But it's a three-dimensional object, but it's just one plane, and it loops on forever. And if I take it and you look at it, from here, from this perspective, it looks like the infinity symbol, right? And it's a paradox, basically, right? And this is where it comes. This is the kicker. If you take this and you make it, if you make it have volume, what does it turn into? It turns into a torus. Isn't that weird?
That's really profound.
Yeah. So you take the Mobius strip and you give it volume, and it just turns into a torus, because a torus is basically the same thing, but it has volume, right? So because a torus also has basically has, say, a black hole, white hole. You can't tell between clockwise and counterclockwise turns, or going up or going down. So this you can't tell between going left or right, and in a torus you can't tell between going up or down, sideways, left or right. It's now 3D, it's volume. So you can't tell where you're going. You're going in all possible directions at the same time. You're going like this, right? And if you think about it that way, what happens to time? Time is relative to where you are and where you're moving through this thing. It's not actually a point. It's a frequential thing. Where are you in the frequency of where you and where and this thing is moving in on itself? It's a feedback loop that's constantly doing a feedback. But where are you in the feedback loop? You know, and in that void, that black void, the mother, it has fluid-like dynamics. Why? Because when these things go like this, that's what happens in a fluid. And a fluid is infinite potentiality. And then here, when it hits, it creates structure, information structures, which is what everything is here in this physical world, right? There are all these information structures, atoms, and how basically are assembled in an information structure, to create what we call this bottle, this book, whatever it is. And it's more or less stable because it's condensed or frozen light. And all you are is light. A soul is a photon of light. And in this void, it's light potentiality. It's not even condensed yet. It's just light aware of light. But in this thing here, when it hits and it goes in on itself, then it has all these dimensions of semi-liquid or frozen light called crystals. It's a crystallization process. And so basically, it's just light being crystallized. And you go, what's light crystallized? That's a fractal. What does a snowflake look like? Crystallized water, a fractal. Same thing, light crystallized. It's a fractal. Sorry to go off there, but that's a little thing. So we got here. What I wonder is how an ET civilization reach a milestone as big as interstellar dimensional travel can be of hostile nature without wiping themselves out before getting here. I think you have to realize is that you are not physical. You're a spiritual being having a physical experience. Okay. So you don't have to necessarily travel physically there. If you're advanced enough, you can change your frequency and you will just appear there. And to give you you go, well, how does that make any sense? Let me give you an example. When you have a dream, how did you travel to that place? You're here in your bed. How did you travel there? How did you go to, somewhere across, the world to see your grandma? You were in your bed. How did you do that? You can't travel there. That's right, because you changed your frequency and you weren't using your body. You were just a frequency, a spirit traveling. And then you go, oh, so are you saying that they are spirits? Yes, some are. Some are in spiritual form, and some are in a shell form that can handle that shift really quickly to somewhere else. Right? They are attuned to doing that. They can do that. And we're shifting as well, but they're able to shift. Their frequency in their shell is able to shift many layers and densities very fast. So, space is an illusion. Distance is an illusion, right? You drill into an atom, you drill it all the way down. What do you find? Just the quantum. And what is the quantum? There's no space, there's no time. It's just potentiality. That's the void. So don't think of it so much as like we're trying to travel through space, is that we're traveling a frequency. So imagine if your frequency was raised, the things around you would just shift. You wouldn't be here. You would be somewhere else in the same place. Let's see here, but I do agree in all consciousness all already exists. Yeah, there's nothing but consciousness. It's one big ocean of consciousness, the void. And you are born from this void, the mother, and you go into the baby boy. How does that work? The moment awareness, the void, has an intention of some sort. You get sucked into creation, the void, in the vortex. And then you go, oh, now you're sucked in. And then other higher beings within creation and duality will say, well, what were you interested in? What do you want to do? And then that starts your journey. The journey of your first interest and curiosity within reality as a soul from this infinite void water of consciousness. It says, I'm with everything you're saying. Really interesting point of view. Reminds me of uh, uh, sounds like Dogen a bit. That's along the lines of what Dr. Greer says. Actually, there are all kinds of depending on how vast they are. Yeah, exactly. It's all a perspective, and it depends on your level of awakening within consciousness. Well, you go, well, what is a soul? What are we? You're a photon of light that is looping in on itself, this Mobius strip. And this loop does not kickstart for you until you become self-aware. So imagine you're in this infinite void ocean of water, and you're just aware. You have no thoughts. You're just aware, oh, there's something there, but I have no thoughts about it. The moment you go, huh, what's that? That's an intention. And wherever your energy goes, uh, wherever your attention goes, energy goes. Wherever your intention goes, energy grows. So if you have a strong curiosity, then you're manifesting, right? And manifestation is that feedback loop. It goes like this, and it feeds back. That's self-awareness. If you're not self-aware, you have no feedback loop because you're not thinking about anything, you're just aware. But the moment you have an awareness of self, that's the feedback loop, which is the toroidal sphere or this Mobius strip. The Mobius strip is the um, metaphorical symbol of the mother, whereas the torus is the physical representation of the baby boy that's inside the void. That's why it's an eternally pregnant mother. Different points of view. One's conceptual because it's just possible, it's infinite potentiality, and one is actual, which is the actual object itself, which is creation. Okay. Yeah. So I can that whole talk can go on forever, but check out the book if you want more about the details of things. But this might be a good. Let's see here. What do you got here? Well, the question is, if they are awake, how could they be evil or hostile? If they know all is one, how could they think of her? I have a perfect. I can tell you exactly why that is. Because I've been traveling in the astral and I've encountered many demonic beings, and I've had to rid the beings off of myself many times, and they spit paint at you and all these weird things that's symbolic of basically attachment to you. And I wake up and have all these weird thoughts in my head. It's really bad. And so there's a couple ways to look at it. One is these beings, okay? So everything's eternal, right? Consciousness is eternal. Um, and and in order for mother is eternal, right? Infinite consciousness. In order for infinity to understand everything, right? It's infinite. In order for infinity to understand itself, it has to become what it's not. Weird concept. Think about it. In order for infinity to understand itself, it has to become what it's not. What does that mean? It has to become the finite. If you're infinite, do you have any understanding of what it's like to be not infinite? No. So how do you understand what not infinite is? You create the finite. But you can't create the finite if you're infinite. That's right, you can't. But you can create a very convincing illusion of the finite. And that's what this is, the illusion, the matrix. It's an illusion of the finite. All we can do is a really strong illusion. And we have many layers of the illusion. We first start creating these semi-realistic layers, and pretty soon you get to Earth, and you have the most realistic game possible, and it seems so finite. This is the book, and it's nothing else. You know, it seems very real. And so if you think about it that way, you realize, oh, well, if we have to become what we're not, we have to see every possibility, even if it's paradoxical. That means in order for good to exist, evil has to exist within the creation, right? Out in the void, there's no such thing because it's just awareness. You don't even know what's going on. You're just aware. But in creation, you have the two opposing vortices. You have positive and negative. So you have good and evil. You have to have those because that is the opposite of infinity. Is a contrast. It's positive and negative. It's finite. So you have to have evil. You have to have good. Can't have good without evil. Can't have evil without good. They coexist together. Without evil, how would you transcend the suffering to understand more about what you are? And you go, oh yeah, I'm just infinite. Yeah, you can't transcend. You can't spiritually grow if you don't have evil. It's impossible.
So would you say that where would you say God exists?
Well, I say in the book, um, it's very end of the book that God is a word for the lost and love is a word for the found. And God it is a word that we've used because we don't understand that we are part of God and we are individually gods growing, like demigods growing. And and all of this creation itself is God, but it is the baby boy, you see. It's the self. So you say, well, then what about the mother? So you could say, well, is the mother God? Well, the mother is the ultimate God that's not even aware of itself, you see, because it's unconscious, it's unaware, it's asleep. So what is the baby boy? The baby boy is lucid awake. It's aware of itself. The baby boy is aware of itself. The mother is asleep eternally. And so the mother is actually the ultimate God that's unaware of itself. And the baby boy is aware of itself and is in a sense a lesser God because it's not the void because it's within the void. So it is a physical God, but it's which is everything, and you're in that. It's like God's brain, the baby boy's brain, and you're one of the neurons in that that's growing, and becoming more self-aware of itself and realization. And if you keep doing that, you will. So the whole point is, well, then what's the end game? Well, the end game is you will at some point be a master of your own universe. People will be within you, as above, so below. You will have beings within your universe that you created that will be thinking you're God. And then, well, they go, well, then, and then you have to realize, well, as above, so below. That's right. It's infinite. Therefore, there's a God above me and a God above them. It's to infinity. So it's nth dimensional gods wrapping in on themselves, and you're constantly. So I will be a god of a universe. So will you. We will all be this thing. But this in itself is the ultimate thing. But it's constantly in flux as it evolves, right? Um, and so
Yeah, I thought
yeah,
we were using the new NVIDIA AI for that, right?
yeah. I think we'll need a much more advanced video for that one.
I'm just trolling.
Yeah, but might want to. I want to probably close out this live stream. I got to move on to some things, but it was good. We'll have to do this again. Thanks for joining, all the people that were here tonight. I appreciate all the questions. We'll have to do this again. Thanks, Metatron.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It was good to be on
Yes.
here with
All
you,
right.
and cheers, and thanks for especially the last 45 minutes. Your insight was awesome, and love to catch you again.
Yeah. All right. Love you. See you guys.